Welcome to Positive Filter with your host, Philip Wilkerson, a podcast that focuses on friends, family, health, and career with a little self-help around the way. Please join me in this journey for self-improvement, and I hope that what I have to share will make you a better person, thus making the world a better place. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that was really loud. It's Philip Wilkerson back with another episode of Positive Filter. I have a special guest, actually a returning guest, double returning guest, my good brother, mentor, sponsor, whatever you want to call him, brother Kevin Glover. And so I'm actually going to coin Brother Glover as my human resource employment specialist. He definitely knows the ins and outs of the business of hiring, firing, keeping jobs, losing jobs. And so he's been on my episode previously about mentorship. He's been on my podcast previously about wage inequality or wage.
I think it was Know Your Worth or
know
something
your worth,
like that.
And we were talking about how you should know how to do research on how much you should get paid. And now I'm bringing him back again for another HR topic. Because I think the young people need to know as they go into the world of work some of these, serious issues. But for the listeners that listening to the episode for the very first time, I don't know why, you should listen to my podcast all the time. Brother Glover, please introduce yourself.
Of course I will. Hello, everybody that's out there. As Phil has stated, my name is Kevin Glover. Been in the human resource field for over 10 years now in different industries, ranging from quick service restaurants such as McDonald's to mass media such as Channel 9 News here in DC and USA Today, construction and engineering, government contracting, nonprofit, and now local government.
AKA education.
Yeah, AKA education. I've touched in just about every area of HR that you could think of.
And I guess with all those different areas, there's also different types of employment, types of packages, and types of people.
Yes, very much so.
I'm trying to think of a different type. But today's episode, I'm going to call it Protect Your Neck, particularly because I work in career services. I work with young people. And one of the things that, we talked about last episode was about just wages and knowing your worth, because a lot of students are going to go out to the world of work to get their first job. They don't know how much they should get paid, how to do some adequate research, and think about cost of living. But this one, we want to talk about, a lot of these students, we're going to go with a strong assumption that when they graduate, this is their first real, probably salary job. A lot of students I know, if they're traditional students, we have a lot of students at Mason that are coming back to school. They're adults and they work in the world of work. But some of these students I'm working with, when they graduate as seniors, this is going to be their first time they get a full 9 to 5. They may have worked at a part-time job, maybe worked as a student worker on campus, but they never really worked a real salary job with benefits. They're gonna get inundated. Honestly, I even get inundated. I remember I told you next time I get a new job, I need to slow down and actually bring my paperwork to you, so I don't just sign things.
Which you should not do, by the way.
I should, and I did. So this episode we're gonna talk about particularly reading the fine print of what rights you have as a new employee in regards to whether they can fire you in the first couple of days, and things like that. So, Kevin, when we discuss this topic about thinking about protecting your neck, protect yourself, knowing your stuff before you sign the contract, what are some of the main things or the main categories of employments on contracts?
So the main thing that I would strongly recommend and encourage to anybody is, upon being hired at your new organization, to review your employee handbook. That is essentially your rules and guidelines and how you interact with others around you, how your employer interacts with you. Your handbook is crucial to everything about your job. It contains everything from your salary plans, your benefits, performance evaluations, all of that stuff. All of that plays a key factor in your employment's life. Like what you were speaking earlier about, probationary periods and things of that nature, all of that is outlined in there as well.
Yeah.
So every company has a company handbook. You may have a page or something electronically where you sign saying that you acknowledge that you've received this and you have read this.
Yeah.
Usually employees do that without reading through everything.
Yeah.
I understand why, because some employee handbooks are pretty lengthy, but for your peace of mind, I would recommend read through it so you can see what is expected of you, some things that you can be entitled to, because you could also have some benefits in your handbook that may not have been covered in your orientation.
I know, but I'm going to say two things. One, I think they make that jump boring on purpose because they know you're not going to read. And two, I've noticed, and this is just my, quick assumption, is that they give you a handbook and say, okay, we like your decision within like a week. And you're not going to read that whole thing in a week.
I mean, just like with regular law, you're not going to read all of the Virginia Code to know what's legal and illegal across the Commonwealth, for example. I mean, some things like, yes, that you should not speed or else you'll get a ticket. Yeah. But like when I was living in Georgia, which I don't know if they changed this law or not, but I don't know how I found it, but I did. It's actually illegal in Georgia for cops to pull you over in a residential zone.
Yeah, but you have to read the fine print. So let's say you are a person that glosses over. What pages of the handbook should you immediately just make sure you read if you're not going to gloss over?
Disciplinary.
Okay, so
just flat out disciplinary. Like, what is I'm not saying that you're going to be a bad employee or that you're looking, for a reason to make them go that route. Yeah. But at least know if something were to happen, what is the plan? What's the policy? What's the verbiage in there? Because there are some things where it can say if you commit X, Y, and Z, it could lead to automatic termination versus you doing something like coming in late 6 or 7 times where you just get like a little slap on the wrist or something.
A write-up. Yes.
Right.
So I think that would probably be the best thing. So seniors, at least read that page.
Yeah, at least read the disciplinary policy piece of it so you can kind of know what could happen.
Yeah, what you can get away with. Just I don't. Me and Kevin do not condone.
No, we do not. I do not condone
we do not
any ill will or trying to get away and trying to get over.
No, get over.
Yeah.
So we said that the disciplinary thing. That's probably a very key point, especially just knowing. But we want to kind of talk about the different, and you sent this in an outline. This is first new for me. The different types of employment or unemployment or reasons that you can be let go. And particularly, we have 3 main pockets: at will, right to work, and unemployment, or how that break that up. So why do we have those 3 categories, and what makes the difference between those?
Well, the main thing that is kind of tossed around interchangeably is Virginia being an at-will state and a right-to-work state, which it is in both cases. But most people don't truly know what they mean individually. A lot of people know the at-will part where it's, as it states, it is at will. At any given time, you can end your employment with your employer by resigning, quitting, or what have you. Yes. Just like your employer can do the same.
Okay,
now, right. See, a lot of people do. And the example, as extreme as it can be, I tell you that, you know what, Phil? I don't like that you're wearing black glasses. You are fired.
Yeah.
Some people would look at that like, well, you can't do that. Well, technically, I can do that. Would I win if you were to file unemployment or to bring suit? Probably not, because there's nothing written saying that people that wear black glasses cannot work in this organization.
So has that been actually inappropriately used against minorities or people that are LGBTQ?
It could be. It may not be as blatant as that. Yeah. It may have been done in a more behind the scenes, hidden
like,
type of
he's a black dude, but I'm gonna say I don't like his shoes.
Right. Now
they'll figure it out.
I would say for things like that, and actually this is probably part of the reason why I did get into HR is I've seen instances where management would kind of cook the books to an extent, or kind of pad a document or a folder to make a case against somebody to make it seem like, well, I'm moving forward with termination based on merit. When you kind of dig through and see, well, what happened and why, and why did we go to this point right now instead of going through this disciplinary process, that kind of peels back the layers on the onion for somebody in HR to say, well, wait a minute, this doesn't look right. This paperwork is messy.
But then they'll still say this is an at-will state. So
right, and exactly. And they could do that. This person could, of course, legitimately file unemployment, which all of those questions would come up, or they could possibly bring suit where those same questions could come up again. So the way that I look at myself in HR is, I'm only here for guidance. So yes. I can tell you, Phil, this does not look good. The paperwork is shoddy. The whole situation is messy. I don't think we can move forward with this. But if you being the supervisor or the one that makes that final decision, you tell me, okay, I hear that. I still want to move forward with it. Okay.
So when you say suggestions, do you document your suggestions to protect yourself?
Oh, yeah, you always document.
Receipts about everything. Of course. But you'll say, per my suggestion, I advise against it. They did it anyway. Boom.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes it may be just something in verbal, or it could be in writing. The fact of the matter is, for me, I will tell you what I feel is the best course of action. If you agree with it, cool. I will still get paid at the end of the day. If you don't agree with it and you do the other option and then we get sued or whatever, that's fine too. I will still get paid at the end of the day because I told you this is what's going to happen.
You told him.
Now,
or him or her. Whatever.
Him or her, whomever. But, that's our role, is to prevent things like that from happening. Because if I'm looking at it, I'm thinking from the mind from someone that has interacted with Virginia Employment Center that handles unemployment. They're going to ask, well, what steps did you take to prevent this? Did you talk to this person when these issues first arose? Because I've had instances where somebody will be let go and say, well, where's the documentation? Oh, we didn't write anything up. So, well, that's no good. I can't do anything with that. You're not giving me anything to help with the situation that you're saying is going on.
But that's the at-will thing. They could do this.
They could do it.
Now, what other states do this? And they don't say a lot, but just another
a majority of states do. Georgia's like that. Okay. North Carolina,
South.
Most states are at will. Now, right to work states.
Yes. Now, what's the difference?
So the difference between at will and right to work deals more so with unions.
Yes. I know.
So in Rust Belt states, Indiana, Ohio, where, Michigan, the United Auto Workers and all those places, those are not right to work states. Whereas, Virginia, Georgia, other places are. And the primary difference is what is known as like an open shop or a closed shop. And the best example I can give is like a grocery store. I used to work at a grocery store.
Me too. Food Line. Which one did you do?
No, I can't do Food Line now. I did Kroger.
I was going to say Kroger. Oh, you fancy. I was about to be really like stereotypical about the South. You know what I was going to say?
You will take the Piggly Wiggly?
Yeah, I was going to say Piggly Wiggly. I know. I told you I lived in Alabama, so I know about the Piggly Wiggly.
You can
or Publix.
Well, see, first of all, Publix and Kroger are not to be mentioned in the same sentence with Piggly Wiggly and Food Line.
Is that we talking about a different echelon?
Yes, I actually had this conversation at work, and I actually had somebody tell me that Kroger sounds like it would be below Food Line, and I told them to shut their. I said that is not true. You got to shut it down.
I definitely know in the class of grocery stores, Kroger is nicer than Piggly Wiggly.
Kroger is always nicer than Piggly Wiggly.
Publix is not that low, is it?
Publix and Kroger are about that. Publix has good sub sandwiches. Now, I'm only biased because I work at Kroger, so Kroger is better than Publix.
Yes.
Now, the best grocery store that there is Wegmans. Period.
Okay, I got that. That's a fact.
Yeah, that is a fact. There's no debate.
Food Line was pretty rough in Harrisburg.
Food Line, they bleach meats and everything like that.
I do not agree or disagree because I just did the cashier.
Hey, silence says it all. So
you worked at the grocery store.
Back to the topic at hand. So I don't know if Food Line had this, but at Kroger there was a union called the UFCW, the United Food and Commercial Workers.
Okay.
So it was known as an open shop. where as an employee, I'm not required to be a part of the union. But if I chose to be a part of the union, I could be. It is optional. Exactly.
Okay.
So if you are a part of the union, yes, you pay union dues, but you also have a union contract, so you have different benefits versus somebody that is not union.
I've seen people that, like, some actors are unionized. It's all this thing, but it's like a whole deeper level of protection.
It is. So you get different levels of protection, but of course you pay for that.
Out of your
checks, out of your paychecks with union dues. So there are a different set of rules for people that are in unions, known as CBAs or collective bargaining agreements. So Virginia, being a right to work state, it's not mandatory that you have to join a union as a condition of employment unless you work in a closed shop. Now, closed shop is essentially a place where if you wanted to go work at this location, you must be a part of the union.
They force you to be one,
essentially. And so that is the key difference between the two. Right to work is an option with a closed shop. Even if we don't have right to work, it doesn't mean we automatically go into everybody needs to be in the union. It's just more so of you can be in a situation where if you want to work here, you must be a part of the union because we are a closed shop.
I understand. Do you get a card or something if you're in a union?
Oh yeah, it's like it's a membership.
It's a membership. Then are there headquarters for all these unions?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'm like super not familiar with unions.
Yeah, I mean
I know like movies where guys were like on the shipyard. What's the one with Marlon Brando?
Don't get me
I don't know, but there was a movie, about unions and how
right.
Unions were started to protect workers.
Exactly.
The whole nine about
exactly.
Unions started because they wanted to make sure that people weren't working like 20 hours a week or what. I mean,
it was
20 hours.
Unions have their purpose, and as me being an HR person, the unions and HR were like oil and water; they don't mix. So unions have their purposes.
Yeah.
But for me and what I've seen with some unions that I have dealt with, they do have their benefits, but they also have their limitations as well. Because whereas there are certain things that an employee may want or desire that we're not currently doing for them, like in an open shop, for example, well, this person has this benefit available to them. I want to have that too. But you're a union employee. I said, well, unfortunately, based upon your position, you are in this collective bargaining agreement with this union. I can't give that to you. If
you have locked into what they want.
Right. So, but when you do your collective bargaining agreements, talk to your union representative. They can advocate for this, and then the union and the organization can come to an agreement. Is it something that they can do, or is it not? So, because each union has a union rep or a shop steward. My mom is a shop steward. So, if there's an issue, go to your union rep because they're knowledgeable about what the union can do. They're sort of like a different level of HR to a degree.
So there is, like, bringing it back for a young person going into their first job, there will be an experience where someone will graduate from, like, let's say a school in Virginia, and maybe they'll relocate to a new place. And they'll probably be exposed to this for the first time, whether to join a union or not, and all this, depending on what state they went to and what they're doing in what industry.
It's possible. It's not as possible as it once was, like back in in the 80s, 70s, and whatnot, because union membership and things of that nature have shrunk tremendously.
Got it.
So it's really kind of going out of style because employers are starting to be more upfront and more lucrative and robust in the offerings that we give in our employee handbook. Depending on the industry.
So what industries, modern-wise, still do this a lot?
You
said auto.
The auto industry does it. Like I said, food and commercial workers unionize. So, not at store manager level type things, but, like department levels, lower level. IATSE, so if you want to be like a stagehand or work in production and things like that, they have their own union.
That's what I'm saying. The actors union.
Yeah, though they have them.
My family, my brother-in-law was in one of those.
Yeah, they have some too. I believe.
So which things, like you're saying, like factory stuff. Which more like college degree, blue collar jobs?
White collar.
Still do
the federal government has a union.
Okay.
So
And we have quite a few students that will get into the government.
yeah, there is a union with the federal government. I'm not too keen on the specifics of that, just because I haven't dealt with the federal unions before.
Gotcha.
But most professional white collar type of jobs, they're not really many unions per se. They're more so like associations, like 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 National Association of Engineers, or
Yes.
NABJ, things like that.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of associations, but not too many unions that I can think of, at least on the white collar aspect of things. They're more so for blue collars.
So we talking about we talk about at will, and you can be let go at any moment. You just got to look at the fine print, what your company's policies on that, and then we talked about like the right to work states, which is these things. Now let's say, and then we have the last one, which is unemployment, which a lot of people know about. But you said there's some unique differences between those. But going back to it, at any of these points, which one is the worst if you got let go afterwards as an employee? Not the HR side, but like for instance, if you're at to will, you kind of know ahead of time. Will you get a severance package for those?
It depends on the company. All severance packages are not a mandatory thing.
Oh, okay.
So certain companies give them, some do not. Some companies that you would expect to give them don't, and companies that you don't expect to give them do.
So that really, there's no difference between getting benefits when you get let go between an at-will one or a right to work one.
No, see, at-will and right to work doesn't have any bearing on what type of benefits that you would receive upon leaving the organization. The one thing that's really standard would be, something relating with your benefits. Like, what if you have a retirement plan, what happens to that money? You have health insurance, you get your COBRA letter, so you would be able to continue it for a period of time at full cost. So, I mean, you would get those things because those are required. If you have 401k or 403b, they have to let you know what happens with that money. If you have any type of insurance, they must send you COBRA. So that's really the only things that I can think of off the top of my head right now that would automatically come to you. Severance, that's an organizational decision. The only thing that you may consider severance is like what they do with your vacation leave that you accrued, or sick leave if they pay it out.
So you just got to read everything.
Yeah, well, that's what I said in the beginning.
Yeah, you did. So let's do a scenario. Let's do
fun.
This is a positive filter.
Of course it is.
But we're gonna start with a negative filter. What is in all these cases? What is one of the horror stories that you've heard on the employer side in regards to any of this stuff? And then what could a person have done better? I don't know. Just tell me scare the kids real quick.
No. Let me. I have to ask questions first before I can go into this. So you're saying a horror story as far as like with something that I have seen as an HR person from this end of it, or like
what you've seen as an HR person, but more like not a supervisor decision, but more of a person
like why somebody got terminated type of thing,
and they didn't read or something. Like beyond this stuff, we're talking about knowing your rights, protecting your neck.
Well, it's not really a horror story. Now, I do have horror stories, but this one, as far as with not reading, whatnot,
do the not reading one, and then do a real horror story, just because I want to hear one.
Okay, yeah. So the not reading one, a very simple one, like when I mentioned the disciplinary aspect of it.
Yeah,
I had somebody at my first job that we had a policy when it came to tardies. If you are tardy or called into work or did a no-call, no-show 5 times, you would be terminated automatically. Mm-hmm. So, of course, that happened. Mm-hmm. Person got terminated. They filed for unemployment. And because I was in the central office, of course, all the stuff fed into me. I wasn't at the particular location. Okay. So I'm the one that puts the files and everything together. So this person, we do our unemployment claim on the phone. Okay. They're upset that, well, I didn't know about this rule. I don't know who this Mr. Glover is. I've never seen him before. He doesn't know what we do in the store. And the examiner had to tell them, ma'am, he's your HR person, so he handles all of these things and he gets the information from the store.
Yeah.
And so one of the questions that they always ask, was the person aware of the policy as, that they violated? Of course, I said, yes, they did. She said, no, I didn't. I've never seen the policy. I've never this, that, and the other. Okay. But like I said, remember that acknowledgement? Found the acknowledgement from her file that she signed during her orientation.
Signed it.
And all this information you send to the state, so they have a copy of it, and they also send it to the person that you are having a case against. So everybody sees what everybody's presenting. Right. And so the claim examiner asks, well, ma'am, you signed that you read and acknowledged all this. Well, I didn't read all of that, but you signed that you did. So you knew this was something that was going to happen. And so
it's like one of those things like, oh, you can't play ignorance like I didn't know. They're going to bring back the thing that you signed.
Right. That's where the documentation.
That is a good horror story. So
that's not a horror story. That's just simple not reading.
And was she like fully established in this job for a while? Is this one of the things where she
maybe a year and a half?
Yeah, it came back and got you a year later.
Yeah, because it's, she just had her issues. So,
but because of that, and because she didn't read and all that stuff, was she able to? And she said she tried to file suit.
No, that was the unemployment case. So
what happened with that unemployment? Did she?
She lost. No, she didn't get paid for that.
See, that's bad.
Yeah, because that she violated the policy that she acknowledged that she was aware of, and everything was right there. And I was also able to prove. I also pulled the time cards because they were electronic, and showed the claim examiner these are the days.
Oh man!
So
if she were to do it correctly or she did it right, unemployment would have just covered her, gave her a little pad.
Mm-hmm. If they found that what she did was not against policy, like it shows right here that she called out and she sent an email to the manager. The manager didn't send it to you. So she did what she was supposed to do. Your manager didn't do what they were supposed to do, so she's not at fault. So that's kind of how that could have worked.
That's how it could have worked.
That's how it could have worked.
What's another just horror story?
Ooh, another horror story?
I like these lessons for people to know. And I think it's really just reiterating our main point about protecting yourself, reading your things, knowing at will, knowing unions, just at least slowing yourself down. I think that's one of the things I'm trying to learn too this year. Slow yourself down before you sign anything. Just read a little bit.
Yeah, just read. I would say, I don't know if this is more so horror, because some of the horror stuff didn't necessarily lead to termination. They were just disciplinary, and I don't want to go into those right now.
Gotcha.
But this one, it was more of a really what were you thinking type of thing.
I like those too.
And this is also kind of where the human side of unemployment kind of comes in. Sometimes not in it. Now you ain't gonna like it, but it's not in the way that you would think. So I had another situation where we had an employee steal money from the company.
Yeah, straight up.
Cash register, like you said, straight up stole money.
Yeah.
Camera was sitting right above them.
Yes.
Watched them stole the money.
Perfect.
Had a witness watch them steal the money.
Perfect.
Fired on the spot.
Gotcha.
Filed unemployment. Open shut case, right? Jack stole $500 on this day at this time. I have him on camera. I have witness statements. He admitted to stealing the money.
Yes.
But he filed for unemployment. Virginia said, and I kid you not, we are going to pay him. Why? Well, because he's going through a rough time and he needs the money. Are you serious?
Okay, but what policy?
That's what I said. It's not really necessary.
There's no policy that says you cannot steal money.
There isn't. It's theft. Come on now.
I don't think so.
It's theft. It is theft. But what you just stated was what was said to me. Like, you don't have anything explicitly saying that they can't steal from you. Excuse me?
So I guess you have to be explicit then.
Excuse me. This is the Virginia code. This is against the law. You have somebody literally stealing money from the organization, and you're telling me there needs to be something that says Phil cannot steal.
So did they revise it and say next time
no,
Phil cannot steal?
They didn't, because there are some cases where you can kind of get away with the human element for unemployment. because the person felt bad for this employee or former employee.
Who's the person? The hearings person?
Yeah, the claim examiner. They felt bad for the former employee, and they gave them some sob story because they talked to them first, and then they talked to the employer. So I don't know what sob story this person was
I don't
told.
know if that's really a horror story. It's like
that's what I said. It's not. I didn't say it was a horror story. It was just one of those. Are you serious?
The dude finessed.
Right. But of course, I appealed.
Okay.
And I won in the end.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. So I mean, there is justice in the world sometimes.
Sometimes.
So, but like I said, some horror stories. The only thing that I would say that was probably a horror story is the actual reason why I got into HR.
Okay, I like that.
And so, and I told, I actually just told the person this story because he never knew, because he's my god kid's father when we both used to work at Kroger, and so when we were cashiers.
Yeah.
But of course, I'm working at the same store with my mom, so I was somewhat treated a little differently. I was able to hear things that others couldn't. The big thing was they didn't like my friend in his work habits. So you would think, okay, well, they would get rid of him or whatnot. No. But no, they wanted to drag him along because they needed somebody to do the shift, but they wanted to fire him immediately, but wanted to wait until they got all the good work out of him and then let him go.
Yeah, they kind of strung him along.
Right. And so I didn't think that was right. Like, you keeping this man, hope up that, he's going to maintain a job. You're going to fire him. You didn't even tell him or give him any warnings or anything like that. Like, hey, you're on thin ice. Like, well, no, we'll use him through the rest of the weekend and then we're going to let him go.
And hold him on.
Exactly. And so the first thing I went to, kid in high school was like, well, Mom, can they do that? And, of course, I was in the union. He wasn't. And she said, technically they can. Georgia's an at-will state. I said, well, who can help him? Like, I know he's not a union employee, but who would help him? And she's like, well, that's what human resources is for. Like they're railroading him. And sure enough, that's what it was. And that's when I found out, an HR person, like I said in the beginning, if that came across my desk, it'd be like, well, where was everything leading up to this? Like, how did all this just happen within a few days?
And you saw the system. It was broken.
Right.
And that's when you got into it. And
that's where the passion came from.
That's the first time I ever heard that too.
Yeah, I mean, like, really.
And so you found it like literally when you feel like you're doing this work, you're protecting people. Now, honestly, you're protecting yourself, but it's like you're thinking about, okay, these people go to work hard, very long hours.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I think you're right, like the human aspect of human resources is taking care of people and really good human resource professionals, which shout out, I met some really good ones, such as yourself, but also someone at my university where the point is they want people to be good at their job and
exactly
and know what they're doing and get the reward stuff and reward packages and compensation. Like, they're not, like, HR people are not the people that just come and fire people.
Right.
That scary stereotype.
Right. I mean, everybody says, "Oh, you hire and fire people." It's like, well, that's a small piece of it. Because I remember that's what you thought about me for in the beginning as well.
100%. I was, because you're not familiar with that.
Exactly. And so, and the thing is, and even when I went to school, shout out to my dean, Dr. Liz Wilson at Georgia Southwestern. I went in to HR thinking like, oh, I want to help my peers. I want to help these employees and everything like that.
Yeah.
And true to form, it's bad as it sounds, HR is there for the benefit of the employer. So
true.
It is very true. But see, coming in, I'm seeing the wrong. Like, how can I stop this wrong from happening to other people? But on the flip side of that, I can by making sure policies are equitable. Policies are being followed. Now, there are going to be instances where tough decisions are going to have to be made. There are going to be times where I have to side with management because what I'm seeing or what's presented to me is just wrong. But then there are other times where management, well, hey, I want to get rid of this person right now. Why? What did they do? What did you do to help mitigate this? So it's a tug and pull type of a thing.
Yeah, but I think at the same time, if there's really the human aspect, they know if they get good quality people, like there's a recruiting aspect into it, they train good people, there's a training part of it, and then they take care of good people, then they retain it.
Exactly.
And then if they retain good people, and it's in the benefit, as you say, not just for, I care about these good workers, but I want to keep retaining good talent.
Exactly.
It's in the benefit of the organization too.
Exactly.
So therefore, you are still, like you said, working on the benefit of the organization, but it's a win-win for everybody.
Exactly. And the biggest thing is, as long it's just consistency. As long as I can show that I'm not treating Phil any different than Mark, than Lisa, than everybody else, the equity is there.
Yeah. But on the flip side, Phil, Lisa, and whatever had to still be consistent on their work level too. Like, because at the same time, I want to treat them all equal, but if I'm working harder than Phil, Mark, and Lisa, and they're not keeping it up, then they probably shouldn't be treated as equal.
Well, I mean, but see, and that will fall on your supervisor to make sure that they can accurately document that, which that would come on your performance review. Like, are you, speaking highly of yourself when that time comes for pay raises or promotions? Because if you can't articulate that I am working harder than, Lisa and Mark or whatever, and you're just being passive about yourself, but everybody else is being, superstars with their reviews, and you wonder why. Well, how did they get a bigger raise than me? Well, did you advocate for yourself?
Yeah. So how much? I mean, HR is a lot of fine print. Do you read it? Do y'all think y'all read as much as lawyers?
As much as lawyers, probably not. But I would think we're a good. We could probably have a good competition of things, because when you think about it, HR is kind of like your mini lawyers when it comes to certain things.
Yeah.
Because most of your policy interpretations and everything happen with us, and we are kind of like your first line of, well, you may want to consult with an attorney at this point, or this is we are good here. Like when we were talking about some benefits and other federal protections in the earlier episode, where you don't necessarily need a lawyer for that.
Yeah.
Somebody that's been doing it for a long time, they could tell you like, oh, nope, this is eligible, this is not eligible, A, B, C, D, go on about your business.
Now, for a person that's studying HR, like you did, like actual academically, was there whole sections on this particular topic we just talked about?
Yeah.
Like the at will part, and then there was a whole section or a whole class on how did
it's
you come into this too? And then I like kind of where this episode is going more. Like, I actually never knew about your passion in going into this field with a mindset of your perception was I was going to protect people, and then you go into it, and now you're like, well, your dean said, well, I don't know, Kevin, this is more like organizations and how organizations work and all that stuff. So bring that back. What was one of these courses was a full focus on not the at will and employment and all that, particularly in different pockets?
Yeah, it's there's quite a few classes. There is a class for I still have the books, ironically. Compensation and benefits class. So that's one of the senior capstone classes I had to take. Of course, my favorite was employment law. So
it was a law class.
Oh yeah, there has to be. And then the capstone class is current issues in HR, which the book was revised every other year, where you had real life scenarios of a situation and how would you handle it, how would you approach it. And seeing the thing now, like when we spoke prior to the episode about getting advanced degrees and things like that, and I was mentioning certifications, a certification in HR would be more applicable, because the stuff that's in my book when I was in college isn't valid. More so, I mean, for the most part, it is.
Things are changing. Technology's adding to HR,
and it's not even really the technological aspect of it. When I graduated college, the Affordable Care Act wasn't a thing.
Oh, okay.
And so now that the Affordable Care Act is still
and
laws have changed. So because of that, my employment law book is missing things. Whereas with a HR certification, you constantly have to keep up with that certification. It has to be renewed. So of course you would stay on top of things because of your profession. But if I was just strictly in compensation and benefits, there are some aspects of HR law that I wouldn't pay attention to because it doesn't relate to my daily activity. Whereas with me just going through the certification, I have to be keep abreast of all the changes that are going on, just because it's an HR thing.
Yeah.
Just like you know, some of the things like the right to work aspect in Virginia, that could be repealed.
Yeah, has whole states changed? Like one state's at will and the other day it's not? Not like other day, but like a full 5 years later or through legislative stuff?
I have not seen or heard of that. I've seen where some states have just like added different layers of protection.
Okay.
Like, you know, like DC, for example, didn't have paid sick leave. Now they do have paid sick leave.
Hold on, they didn't even have paid sick leave?
I mean, well, companies had paid sick leave, but you know, the government now is mandating that if you have employees or you have some type of presence in the District of Columbia, you have to give your employees X number of days. So, I mean, I've seen a lot of those type of changes happen, which, yes, to the benefit of the employee, it's a good thing. You know, the employer, hey, you got to kick out some more money. And then the question is, where's the money going to come from? So you may not have as many coworkers because, you know, they got to shell out more money. So, you know, kind of, I see more things like that happening. So, like, maternity leave, that's still a big thing. So I see more states are going to go along the lines of, you know, protecting employees and giving them, you know, 2 weeks of, you know, or 3 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever of paid leave. So that seems to be one of those hot button things. Yeah. So, I mean, but stuff like that that's constantly changing, you know, you keep abreast of. So, you know, go back to what you were saying about us reading more than lawyers. I don't think we read more than lawyers, but like I said, we're probably a good second.
Close second.
Right.
How do you think it's affected the reading has affected you, not affected you, but has impacted you as a member of Alpha Phi Alpha? Because I know you read a lot. You know a lot.
All I can say is my profession and then the things I've done with Alpha being a chapter president, you see the same things in a chapter or an organization that you see in your working world. So dealing with conflicts, dealing with policy interpretation or rule interpretation, dealing with, you know, different personalities and all of that stuff. You see it all in your professional side. I see it all on the fraternal side. It's working two jobs.
I know. I agree with you because I see a lot of the same overlap too in the different aspect like training and you know, education and how you. But then at the same, you know, like some of the skills I brought from my normal work I bring here. I'm pretty sure. Like I remember you would tell me things. You're like, "Did you read the bylaws?" I was like, "What?" And you would find I mean, I'm crediting you. You would find like this line right here says, boom, 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 boom. We need like this many people to do this, this, this. I'm like, okay, I see it. It's like it's like reading.
Right, and the crazy thing is, I have highlighted and I have made things bold and in red in messages, and they're still not read.
Yeah.
So that's probably like the biggest nerve wrecker probably of most HR people is folks don't read. Not necessarily the policy, but you can ask me a question in the email and I answer it, and then you respond to me with the same question. Like, I just sent it to you.
I think a lot of things too I'm hearing a lot too is slowing yourself down and actually just really reading and using language, because like I think sometimes where if you did say the same thing twice, and I was like, why is he saying? Oh, and I actually.
And see, and the other thing,
but you know, because I have read a few sections of my HR book, and it's not written in like super coded language. It's just lengthy.
Well, see, the other thing about that too that I would say is when you read things like that, I would go along the lines of saying to ask somebody what it means. Because I've had a couple of instances in my career where I would have somebody read one of the laws, but they would only read a part of it. Yeah. And then they would come and say, well, I'm entitled to this. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And then they would tell me what it is they're talking about. And I'll say, well, okay, kind of, but you're missing the rest of this. You would be entitled to it, but you haven't met all of the criteria. But I met this criteria. I said, yeah, it's not a meet one. You have to meet either all of these or a majority of them, and you don't.
Yeah, that's what it's like when they have more than one article. Like it was like, you know, to get your Christmas bonus, you need to meet A, B, and C.
Right.
And you're like, I got the Christmas bonus, but you like A and B and C were, you know,
not
met.
Right, they weren't met. And so that's kind of one of the other things. Like, yeah, you're reading things, but you're you're not fully understanding what you're reading.
Yeah.
So, it is. And I mean, and like I say, HR is there for a reason. So if you see something that doesn't make sense, ask the question. Like, I read this, but what exactly does this mean for me?
Right. And and going back to our original point, that thing about feeling rushed, let's just give some tips. What would be some tips? I guess you're always allowed to meet one-on-one with someone, mostly or most times. Let's say just general speaking. Like, see, here's one of my pet peeves with orientation.
Okay.
Is that congratulations.
Mm-hmm.
They slam all this stuff into one day. You get your photo, you get your ID,
mm-hmm.
then you go to this thing with a PowerPoint where they just click through a bunch of stuff,
mm-hmm.
then you sign it and you bounce because you want to start your first day of job.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. Sometimes I feel like people just don't slow down. They, wait. Or let me go home and sleep on it. Or can I at least meet with someone one-on-one before I sign anything? Why do you think? I mean, I know my assumption is why they do that is because it's time. We got 20 new employees. We got to get them through this orientation
mm-hmm.
thing together,
mm-hmm.
and then knock them out so we can get them started. I don't know. I'm more saying like, what do you think the system can do to slow people down?
I mean, really, it's more so it's an organization's onboarding process. And in most situations, before you go to orientation, like you stated in the beginning, like before you get another job and you get all your stuff, you're going to sit down and talk with somebody. Same thing. You get your offer letter, you see your benefit package, so most cases, hopefully you'll get the handbook with all of that too. So you would have it before you would go to orientation.
Before.
Exactly. So, hopefully your onboarding specialist or whatever the person is called would know enough to be able to answer basic questions that you would have. Of course, down the road, when more complexities come along, then you would go to your HR specialist that specializes in that particular area. Mm-hmm. But whoever your onboarding person is or your recruitment person is, they should be able to answer questions that you may have in the beginning about certain things. But you haven't been in the company long enough to really know those intricacies. You may just have surface level questions that they could answer.
I mean, I'm still young. I mean, I would say relatively.
Right.
When you say still young, I'm still under 2. No, I'm at 2, I think. About 2 years at Mason.
Mm-hmm. So
I still got a while. But like most times, you still won't even know so much until like you've been there for like 10 years or something. Like that's when I know people know stuff.
Right. So I mean, but really, it's just more so the onboarding process. How robust is it? Like you said, there are some where it's like, okay, yeah, you don't really need to know this. You don't need to know that. You don't need to know this. Right. So, but there are some things where you do need to know them. And actually, some companies that I heard of have actually stopped that process of doing like off-site type of onboarding type of thing. Like if a place has different satellite offices, especially if it's like a local thing, not a nationwide thing, but like a local thing. I heard of a company here where they don't do orientations at their satellite offices anymore. Everybody has to go to their main office to do orientation because in some cases you have a situation where a manager or a supervisor at a high level may ask or say something to an employee about maybe a company culture thing or something of that nature, and the employee says, well, I didn't know anything about that. So the message is not the same and it's not consistent.
Yeah.
So
consistency. Right,
and you're not having that consistent quality employee.
Yeah. So that's crazy.
Yeah, it is.
So we're at our part of our show. I mean, this is definitely going to do another episode. I think the next episode.
Oh, we are.
But not today. We're just going to do another one.
I didn't think people liked me.
No, I don't care what people like.
Well, I mean, like I said, the HR person is not everybody's favorite person. That's why I'm surprised you brought me back so much.
You're my favorite HR person.
Well, thank you.
I don't know. Well,
I'd give you a raise if I was your HR person.
Please do. Whoever listens, give me money.
That doesn't sound too good. No. Doesn't sound too good.
It sounded really desperate.
It really did.
It sounded
really
super
did.
desperate.
Just a little bit.
That's how a sponsor. Is that like how I get sponsors? Like anyone listening, please give me money.
I mean, I don't know.
Would you give me money if you heard that?
No. No, not at all. No, I'm like, who is this begging?
GoFundMe. I'll put the link in the show.
You gonna do a GoFundMe? Okay.
All right, so this is a part of the show called Shot for Shot. You know how this goes. I ask you any question, you get to ask me any question.
Fine.
Both related, mostly not related, whatever you go for. First of all, this was the first time I ever heard why you got into the world of. So shout out to you changing people's lives and being an advocate for fair employment and fighting the injustices of Kroger. Why
That's
you
right.
You should have worked at Piggly Wiggly. They fight
You know what? You go down South Carolina and go to Piggly Wiggly and get you a pork chop or something.
Yeah. All right, go ahead. You want to go first? I'll go first.
Oh, you go first.
Okay. All right. So we talked about the different levels of grocery stores, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm gonna give you in no time. But a lot of people say, you have throughout your life, you have I think like 7 or more different careers. I don't know. You change a lot. No one stays somewhere for the longest time.
Okay.
The point is, though, I did this thing on Twitter where people ask you if you can just remember what were your first 7 jobs, and you'll realize that we do so many different things before we get a real job, or part-time jobs till now.
So, you're asking me what were my first 7 jobs?
Yeah, and the number 7 is important. But,
of course, the number 7. So now, of course, I have to ask a clarifying question. So when you say 7 jobs, does that mean like positions or organizations?
I was gonna go for instance, my first real job was at Baskin Robbins, and then I was gonna say lifeguard, like those kind of jobs.
Okay. Well,
Baskin Robbins, lifeguard, like that.
Okay, so I would say.
Kroger was the first one?
Well, I mean, I did a couple of different things at Kroger. That's why I asked.
Okay, dang. How about overall organizations? Because if you did 20 different jobs at Kroger, this question was kind of boring.
Yeah, that's why I asked my clarifying question.
You did everything at Kroger, like that. Okay.
So no, I didn't do everything at Kroger. I did a lot. Actually, I got ran over by a car at Kroger, but that's another story.
In the parking lot?
In the gas station.
There's a gas station? Oh, and some of them do have it.
Mm-hmm. See, that's why Kroger is what it is.
Next level.
So, let me see. First 7 jobs. Well, of course, the first one was Kroger. After Kroger, it was Social Security Administration. Did intern work there. Interned at my university at Georgia Southwestern in Human Resources. After that, McDonald's, USA Today, the Kennedy Center, and then after I left the Kennedy Center, I went to. Hold for a second. Let's see what I did on LinkedIn.
You said Kennedy Center was the last one.
Yeah, Kennedy Center was the last one. I think it was LSI. I believe it was LSI, but I don't want to lie. So, especially with all your wonderful listeners and everything. Oh, I was right. It was LSI, Link Solutions.
So you really did almost all the different industries that you can be.
Yes.
From food service all the way to arts. You did the arts, Kennedy Center, all that.
Nonprofits, technology, government contracting, mass media.
See, I'd say that question to tell people that try different industries because those skills that you have was transferable to all different industries.
Yeah.
You went into HR, which is human, but just the people skills, customer service, people care, talking, communication, writing, reading. It took you to totally different things.
Yeah. So in each industry was vastly different.
Okay, I have a follow-up question.
Go ahead.
From the vibe, which one was probably the most your vibe? Which industry matched your personality most? For instance, I really love working in higher ed because I think it's kind of keeps me young, but I also like working with my particular industry in higher ed is the arts because I like being creative.
Right.
I don't think I would have had a lot of fun working in law or something.
I would say probably in mass media with Gannett and USA Today because it was fun.
Yeah.
More so because I when I was working there, I would go to the other tower every now and then because the newsroom, well, they had all the fun. They had little basketball hoops, foosball tables, and stuff like that. I would always get into like a ping pong little battle with one of the finance managers in the other building, maybe like once a week. Yeah, because we would talk every now and then. Shout out to Jim, and we would just go back and forth on the table. He would cheat, but it's okay.
Sure.
And then every now and then when we have like a big celebration, they'd come around with the beer cart and just, give us beer and, we have cookies and things like that. So,
I mean, it was a real late, well, I mean, it's hard work. They worked a lot for the news is always going, but then the vibe was more like.
The vibe was more relaxed, especially with my particular area. I was responsible for all the television stations in the company.
Okay, that sounds fun.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Television.
Yeah, it was. And then, I had to, and the reason why I liked it the most because I had the best work schedule because I did most of my support with the West Coast, so I didn't have to go to work till like 10:30.
Sounds good.
Right, so I just roll over and wake up when I felt like getting up. I'm going to work at 10:30. Now, of course, I didn't get off till like 7:30, 8 o'clock, but
that's not too bad.
No, it ain't bad at all.
Different. Okay, your question for me. I'm ready.
My question for you. All right, I'll start simple. Were you happy or sad with the national championship in college football?
I do actually care. It was two Tigers versus each other.
You're right. Two Death Valleys.
Two Death Valleys. I really don't particularly have a... Actually, you know what? I am happy that it was just any other team than Alabama.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you right now, full tide. I can't stand Alabama now. And I'll tell you why. You know why.
I'm listening. I don't know why.
I told you,
Tell me again.
Because recently, someone was hired at University of Alabama, and they were not treated right.
Yeah. It's okay. I know you're talking about. And
so, therefore, I do not rock with the University of Alabama.
No Rammer Jammer Yellow Hammer?
No, and I actually never really liked Alabama anyway.
You used to live there, though.
No, it don't count. I was in Fort Rucker. That don't count. Okay. If you say I used to live there, then I'll say War Eagle. No, but I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm unofficially a adopted UGA fan. I told you that.
Yeah, you did. I was about to say, because you see, that's why I looked at you crazy when you said that War Eagle stuff.
No, actually, I like UGA because I think I had the most fun.
Of course.
Ever, from what I remember.
Of course, it's Athens.
So
yes, go Dogs.
So, but it's SEC. So I guess, what did you? Okay, for your thing, was it because it was another SEC team that you didn't particularly want them to win? Because I like LSU.
So I'm impartial to either team because I just am.
Yeah,
I don't.
It's one of those things like you asked me a question. Did I care?
You could have, but at least you were a good sport about it.
I didn't really watch the whole game either. So.
Oh, I didn't know. I couldn't. I just couldn't. I have other reasons. My brother is an LSU fan and all sorts of stuff.
How that work?
He goes to LSU.
Okay, I was about to say I thought he's but he went there. So okay, there.
Yeah,
so you can claim him then.
Yeah, I guess
I actually like the Burrow guy. Give me another question, because I feel like just asking me about two teams I really don't care about.
Well, it was something. So then I guess my question to you would be, because you have a passion for higher education, so you know why I got into HR. How and why did you get into your field?
Okay, I like that. That's a better one.
You're going to stop ragging on my questions, Philip.
I don't think. See, your thing started with an actual injustice or something, and
that's right. Fight the power.
Fight the power. Mine, I fell into it. I actually I think I just kind of got perpetually stuck in HR, and not HR, higher ed, and not saying in a bad way. No one ever just wakes up one day and says, you know what, I want to work in higher ed. They kind of think about dream jobs, doctors, lawyers, whatever, and so when I graduated college, I didn't know what I wanted to do, and then so I got a job with my friend at a school with children with special needs, and I was like, man, this ain't it. I need to go back and get a master's, and so I just went just to do anything, get a master's. But I was like, I like education, but I don't want to be a traditional classroom teacher because I was a history major. I was like, I don't want to teach history, so I said maybe I'll be a school counselor. Like, school counseling is cool. You get to be still in a school, but you get to do the cool stuff. Cool. pull kids out of class. I don't know. I thought that was cool to be a school counselor. This is about as sophisticated as my research.
Okay.
So when I looked down, I was like, well, I want to be a school counselor. I live in Northern Virginia. I want to go back and get my master's. I'm going to go to George Mason. You know why I picked George Mason?
Because it was local?
Yeah, and they didn't have a GRE requirement.
You
that I
know.
didn't take.
So are you advocating for people to go to schools that don't have GRE requirements? Is that what you're advocating?
I'm saying I'm advocating for people to just keep on figuring it out as you go along. As I do.
And accumulate student debt. Is that what you're telling them to do?
Hey, no. Next time, get a job and have the job pay for your master's.
Amen.
Don't do it my way.
Amen.
But because that's actually
that's a very good idea. Matter of fact, that is a benefit you may want to look at: tuition reimbursement.
Well, I'm doing it now, maybe.
All right then.
But so I was there in that counseling program for school counselors, but they had 2 tracks. Either you could be a school counselor or be a community agency counselor. So I was like, well, this is about another sophisticated decision I made. I was like, well, I'm in classes with all these school counselors. I got to stay in Northern Virginia. How many schools in this area? All of us can't get jobs, right? Right? Like, not every person that graduates with this. That everyone's gonna get a school counseling job, right?
I mean, there's hundreds of schools up here, so
Yeah.
I mean that's possible. You
but
could.
How many school counseling programs you competing with? GW, all of them. So I was, you know what? I'm gonna switch to the more general one, which is community agency, because there's way more I can do. Like, the drug and rehab counseling. It was more like the other counseling.
Mm-hmm.
And then in that class, a guy came to my class. His name is Ken Garant, and he said, you know what? Because the other one. The school counselors, you had to do it. Both of them had to do an internship.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're a school counselor, they'll place you. They'll put you in a school.
Mm-hmm.
For the community agent, you had to find your own internship. Like, find it and get your hours and all that.
Well, dang.
So this guy came and said, you know what? If you need to get your hours, you can do your internship at George Mason's Career Services. I was like, oh, man, that's bet. So I bothered him for 6 months. As you know, I'm pretty good at keeping in touch with people.
Mm-hmm.
He said, Phil, stop it. You got the internship. I did my internship at George Mason Career Services.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wow, you actually can work in higher ed and work with students and not be a professor. I love this. I love career services. I love career development.
Mm-hmm.
I actually love asking people, what do you do for your job? And learning about jobs. And then I was like, well, that's what I want to do. And no matter what I'm going to do, I'm going to stay in higher ed. So when I graduate, I just apply to colleges in the area.
Mm-hmm.
And most likely that's where I was like, I'm just going to stay in this pocket, working with students. And I like doing it because it kind of, I don't know, just feels like I get to work with young people. And I'm not teaching them traditionally.
Right.
I don't have a curriculum, but I'm also educating people in my own opinion. So now that is why I'm like stuck in it.
So I have a follow-up question to you about that.
Yeah.
What would you say, since you like learning about asking people what they like to do and finding out about those things, what's probably the most interesting job you've learned about since being in your role?
Okay. Shoot.
Not so good to be on the hot seat, is it?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a really interesting job. Like one where I was like, man, like when you say interesting, like that's crazy. I would never do that. I never knew people do that.
I mean, I'll let
Like,
you.
like
I'll let
like
you.
They show Dirty Jobs. I used to love watching that.
Well, yeah, but not. It could be like something that just blew you away, something that you didn't know was so in depth or intricate, or something that was just like, wow.
Okay. Yeah, there's gonna be. Let me see. So, one of the ones that I find super fascinating is anyone that's like really like when you say covert, like like
CIA type stuff.
yeah, but not the ones, not the thrilling ones. Like when I feel like not the ones out there, field agents that are dying, but more like the ones like there's one person I know where their job literally is to watch the news. Like they literally get paid to watch TVs and watch like programming, and then just write reports about what they're seeing. But they know those reports are actually legit, like saving millions of lives. That's crazy. Or I met a guy that worked for the FBI, and he said, what I found super fascinating about his job, like this is all like, is that there is what's going on in the world that people, they are literally like, it's almost like that Jack Bauer. I met a guy that was kind of like Jack Bauer, where he busted terrorists in D.C., like, you know, a hotel with like ARs and guns, but no one, they won't even write a report about it. It'll never be in the news. It just, like, literally saved people's lives, but they literally can't tell nobody, like, publicly, you know?
So are you breaking the law telling us?
No, because, you know, it was done.
Oh, okay.
And the guy that did it, you know, is retired, and he switched over. Now he's like a leadership coach or something like that. But I always found it so fascinating for people that have jobs where it's like the unsung hero. Like, they literally have done the craziest things, like disarm bombs or whatever, and then they just go back and act like they're normal people.
Yeah,
that's
interesting.
those are the most intriguing jobs for me.
Yeah,
like, you know, have you ever met someone that they're walking and there's a normal guy and you're like, yo, if you really talk to that guy, you got his story. That guy's like a war hero, and like literally, like with his bare hands killed someone, and you know, like something like that, and you're like, how does that person turn that off? Like, they do these really intense jobs, like this guy, you know, terrorist threats, all that, like just really, they see the worst of the world, right? The worst of the world. And then they come back home to their wife and kids and just be like, hi, how was your work? How was work today? It was okay. Like,
compartmentalize.
That was probably one of the most fascinating things I ever thought. I was like, that's crazy. So I think that's it. And, you know, I don't think I could do that. I'm not very good at compartmentalizing like that.
Oh, you mean compartmentalize? Oh, I can compartmentalize. I don't think I could do those type of jobs. But yeah.
Or even, you know, I had buddies that were like detectives that see like the really nasty crimes and stuff. Over time, it just wore them down. They had to retire. I think the same guy, this guy, the CIA guy, was like, it had his run, but you can't do that kind of job forever. He had to, retire and get out of it. And he's like, I just need to talk about sunshine and butterflies and positive. Like, that's his job now.
Positivity.
Like he's like, you can't hold that up forever.
No.
But I find that very fascinating that there's people out there in the world that are doing those as intense jobs, 9 to 5, then going home and living normal lives. I find
that's a lot.
Super fascinating.
That's a lot. That's heavy.
Yeah.
That's a lot of heavy work.
Can you imagine every day you not even like the people in the field, but the people that I'm told to write the reports. Every day they see like Al Qaeda, we're gonna blow up America every day. Like they just see threats, like legit threats every day. But then they're able to decipher. Okay, this one's just like whatever. This one's real. This one's whatever.
Right.
Like what?
Yeah.
They're able to see that much danger.
I mean, after you've done it for so long, it's just like, okay, this is credible. That's not credible.
Yeah, this
like,
dude ain't gonna do nothing.
Right. He's been blowing us up he's been wanting to blow us up for 15 years and ain't even light a match.
No.
So,
but this one, let's take it for real. So that's it. That's my most fascinating job stories.
Okay.
And then there's also just ones that I never even knew you got paid for. I didn't know people got paid. What was it? There was one I was like, you got paid for that. It's gonna come. I gotta figure out. I'll wait in a minute. It's gonna come to me. Like, you really got paid for that, or like really make a full living out of it.
You'd be surprised what people make a full living out of nowadays.
Yeah. Public speaking, I didn't know people. I mean, I knew now, but I didn't know. Like, oh, here you go. Here's one thing I didn't know is that there is like this whole speakers, the speakers organizations, right? I can't remember, but that the Clintons and all them get paid like $90,000, $100,000 per speech. Do you know that?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
You didn't know people got paid to speak?
No, I know they got paid to speak, but I did not know
that they could be that high.
That's the part I didn't know.
Oh,
I did not know there was a legit organization. I can't remember it now off the top of my head. Something like Speakers Guild or something like that, where it ranks. It's for not just Toastmasters people. I'm talking about like the top echelon of public speakers.
Okay, I got what you're saying. And because
a lot of former presidents do it, they're getting paid like legit. Per one speech, he could get paid like $90,000.
Yeah. Just to hear somebody's voice.
$90,000, Bill Clinton.
Hey, everybody can do it.
And the people will book him.
Yeah, they got deep pockets.
Okay, that's crazy.
Yeah, I do agree. Maybe you get to that point. All I ask is for my little 2%. I'm not greedy.
At that point, as in I get paid at least $100 a speech.
Look, I put in my request already.
You see, what's the $2?
I put in my request already, and I have witnesses on the airwaves.
Okay, Kevin's gonna get $2 out of it.
No, I said 2%.
Well, 2% of 100 is $2, isn't it?
No, but 2% of speaking fees is not always going to be $2.
If I get 100,
I want 2%. Period. Regardless of the amount. Now I just know 100.
So if I get $2, then you're gonna get.
I'm talking. Yeah, that's fine too. I'm talking about. See, you keep thinking small. Like if you get big money, I still want my 2%.
All right.
You capping me at $100? Oh no.
All right. Well, now you hear it. I gotta get like a lot of money.
Hey, well, hey, I lay my claim.
All right. Well, we're gonna do another part, but as I do with every episode, the shout outs and plugs.
Oh yes.
And then plugs and shout outs.
All right, I do have my shout out / plug. Of course, again, I'm gonna shout out my boy and his band, Say Leaf.
Yep, I'm gonna put that in the show notes.
Of course, name of the group means that's love. It's a neo fusion band based in the DMV area. Group is composed of 5 members. They strive to express the many facets of life's strongest emotion, which is love.
I was about to say.
What were you gonna say?
I don't know. I was about to say strongest emotion. I was about to say like happiness or joy or something. I guess love is pretty strong.
I mean, it's the name of the group. Say that's love. It's kind of goes together.
Yes, it probably does.
Is
that
that
French?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
I gotta check them out too.
You do. They are a very good band. Been to quite a few performances. So shout outs to Say Leaf. Mm-hmm. Great group of folks. Good music. They already have an album out right now.
Is it on iTunes?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna put that too in the show notes.
Yeah,
either that or Spotify. I'll put either one.
And then you can get on Amazon too.
Amazon Music.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And they're creating new music now, so should be a second album coming out real soon as well. But check them out. You'll like them.
Follow them.
That's right.
YouTube and whatever.
All that good stuff.
And then plugs.
Same plug.
Well, I don't know what we plugged last time. Yourself.
What am I going to plug myself for?
I don't know. I'll plug myself.
What am I going to plug myself for, good sir? I'm the man behind the curtain.
There you go.
I don't have any.
What time I had Jason on the show and I said
Hawkins.
Yeah, at our Alpha Anniversary show. We were talking about us being.
Yeah.
And this Bama said.
Now time out. For somebody that hates Alabama, why you calling somebody Alabama?
That's just what I call everybody. Alabama. I don't think it's an Alabama. It's just a DMV thing.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. Everyone says Bama and DMV.
It's not a DMV thing.
I thought so.
It's okay, but go ahead.
He said, don't worry, don't know about my social. I'll find you. That's what that dude said.
What?
He said, don't worry, you won't find me, but I'll find you. That's what he said.
You type of secret squirrel type stuff going on? Like what?
So that's what you can say too. So don't find me.
No, I'm not like that. I'll take the fact that I don't have any plugs.
Yeah,
all I will say is if you want me back, which it sounds like you do, you know where to find me.
Yeah, well, I know where to find you. Like I said, he said, don't worry, you don't find me, I'll find you.
That's your line, brother.
Yes, it is. All right, so thank you for listening. If you have any more questions, I think also we might do a Q&A episode. You want to do one of those one day?
What would the parameters of it be?
Just people send us questions and we answer them.
Yeah.
All right. So maybe one day me and Kevin will do a Q&A episode. So we're going to get some more questions. I got a question form, fill them out. We don't know when it's going to do it. I'm going to get a couple questions, do a Q&A episode. Or if you want to leave a voicemail for the episode, it's 571-336-6560. That's 571-336-6560. Thank you for listening, and we're out. Thank you for listening to Positive Filter, a podcast that focuses on family, friends, career, with a little self-help along the way. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your family and friends, and like the Facebook page, Spreading Positivity of Movement. Thanks for listening.